Hey there, folks. And I just wanted to jump on today. It's pretty late in the evening, and I thought I'd come down to the studio. I was contacted by a listener of the podcast here, of Disgruntled, and they sent me an article that was posted on Care 11 News just recently. I think it was like 2 or 3 days ago. Uh, for those of you who might be watching or listening to this who are not from Minnesota, Care 11 News is a local news station here in the Minneapolis area that it's NBC. And as you can guess, it's it is very one-sided. And of course, we're all very aware of all the nonsense happening all over this country with the president and his cabinet. Of course, Elon Musk. Everyone hates Elon Musk all of a sudden. He was a genius before. Now they hate him because he's finding all this inefficiency in the government and what have you. And call it what you will. I believe that everyone is able to have their own opinion about what may be going on. But recently on Care 11 News, they put out a story about veterans losing their jobs, how President Trump and his policies are throwing veterans on the street. And they headlined a Minnesota Army National Guard veteran, this female retiree. She served 20 years, so thank you for your service. Her name is Sergeant First Class Marver, and it made all kinds of headline news. And although here at Disgruntled and Three Clicks Media and all over, we thank her for her service, as everybody else should. She served for 20 years and did so with honor, and we know that because she was honorably discharged from the military. But she was recently laid off, terminated. As many other people will say, she was fired, unjustly fired from her job at the VA, at the federal level. She was a federal employee. Now, mind you, apparently, she had been there for 10 months and was coming to the end of her probationary period. And unfortunately for her, if you ask me, when you're in a probationary period of work, if you're working for a organization, a government agency, a private company, a small business, if you're working anywhere for that matter, that is trying to clean up its books, find inefficiencies, maybe save some money, probably, most likely, some of the first things that you're going to cut are probationary employees. Now, Sergeant First Class Marver was a probationary employee, of course. I believe her first name is Joy, but maybe that's neither here nor there. But what I found to be interesting is that our local news here in Minnesota, and we all know that Minnesota may be second. It may be second to California as one of the bluest states in the union. There's probably a lot of people that would argue that, and I won't pose an argument, but I live here. My family owns a small business here. We get to see that side of it and how crazy that is for small business owners and taxes and all those other things. But they start the story talking about how she chose to fly the flag in front of her house upside down. And they go on to tell her story about how she wants to drive her car off of a bridge and commit suicide because she was laid off from the VA. And these words came right from Joy Marver's mouth in the story. So I'm not trying to insinuate that Care 11 News put these words in her mouth and then reported on things that she didn't say, because she did say them. And I'm not here trying to say that Joy Marver is full of shit. I'm not here trying to say that her feelings are invalid. But I think that if that's the way she feels, then she should get the appropriate assistance. And she did. In the story, she talks about driving into the VA and going to the crisis clinic and asking for help. And so that's great. I'm glad that you did that. I am super glad that you didn't make yourself a statistic, a negative statistic that we talk about all the time on this show. We don't want any veteran to be one of those statistics. But I question whether or not this makes a whole lot of sense. Why are we flying our flags upside down because we got laid off of jobs? We're probationary employees. We know when we sign the paper to accept a job, we know what that means. Unfortunately, Joy, you signed and accepted a job as a probationary employee in the middle of an election season. The administration flipped. The new administration has found billions and billions of dollars of fraud, waste, and abuse, which, if you served in the military for an extended period of time, which you did, you know exactly how that works. And furthermore, in this country, we've seen massive layoffs before. We've seen massive budget cuts before, both in the private and public sector, but mostly in the private sector. So when places like Wells Fargo and Target Corporation and Boeing or Lockheed Martin or any of these huge, massive companies, big banks, big box stores, big industry, whatever it is, insert organization here, and these massive layoffs come out, are we to assume that no veterans got laid off? When all of these things happened in the past, some people, and I don't know whether or not this is true, but some people will blame the government. Taxes are too stringent. We pay out too much to the government. We can't afford to keep our workers. Inflation's too high. We can't afford to produce our product. We can't ship it. We can't receive it. We can't sell it because our consumers can't afford our product anymore. I mean, all of it comes back to the government. In conversation, anyway, they tell us it's all the government's fault. Well, in the process of all that, large amounts of people are getting laid off. Veterans are in those groups, I'm sure. But now that federal employees are being laid off and we're trimming the fat in the federal government, like we voted for, we, as in the United States of America, voted for, now we have a problem when we as veterans are being laid off from government jobs. I don't understand this mass hysteria about why all of the sudden, all over this country, the mistreatment of veterans is such a huge deal. We as a veteran culture, as a veteran community, for years and years and years, as well as our families, our supporters, people that organizations that provide us resources for years and years, we've been talking about how veterans have been mistreated in many different spaces for a long time. But now that Donald Trump is the president and seemingly folks on the left hate him, they hate him and they hate everything that comes out of his mouth, even if it helps them. And even if secretly deep down they agree, even just a little bit, they're still gonna pitch a bitch. I'm sorry if veterans get laid off. I'm sorry if anybody gets laid off. It's a real shitty deal. But where do we start? And I don't know that the answer is, well, we need to make sure all the billionaires pay more tax, and those of us who are less fortunate, that have less money, should pay no tax. I don't know that that's an answer. I don't think that that's going to solve the problem. Unfortunately, in my opinion, this woman that served for many years in the military and has a career that, in the news story, which we'll put the link below. Now, you know what? We're not going to put the link below. I'm not going to give this story. I'm not going to give Care 11 News. I'm not going to give them any more publicity. But in the story, it showed her, maybe it's her office in her home with all of her awards and pictures of her time in the service and mementos she has from her time in the military. It seems like she has a career that she should be proud of, 1,000%. But should that career automatically grant her a job and allow her to stay there and sit there, whether or not she was good at it or not? is not up for question. Who knows? I don't know. They didn't talk about it. Only she knows, and her supervisor or boss or whoever. But the point is that you are a probationary employer. And I don't understand why you would choose to turn your flag upside down and fly an upside down flag in front of your house because you got laid off from a job and bring all this negative attention to yourself. All this negative attention that for many people, including myself, I think is extremely unnecessary. And I understand I don't walk in her shoes. I don't know what life is like to be her, but I do know what life is like to be a veteran in the state of Minnesota. I do know what it's like to be a combat wounded veteran in the state of Minnesota. I know what that's like. I have a Purple Heart too. I get it. I know what it's like to struggle through some parts of life. I understand. But I also understand that when we put up our hand and we swore an oath to the Constitution, that it didn't mean that we're going to just be handed everything on a silver platter when our time in a uniform is over. And quite frankly, this is the time, in my opinion, when we as veterans should be supporting the come up of our country. We've sacrificed before. Should we have to sacrifice again? Maybe not. Maybe we shouldn't have to. But we know what it's like to do that. We know what it means. And if we are people, if we are employees, if we are veterans, if we are worth our salt, Sergeant, you will find a job. You will. And everything will be okay. But to put out these stories and to build this narrative to something that doesn't really even seem to be all that true. I mean, the guy's only been in office for 9 weeks. And all over this country, people are losing their ever-loving fucking minds. I mean, his first fart in the Oval Office has barely even cleared the air. And we're going nuts. This country's going nuts. And the sad part is that I reckon that it ain't even the majority. It ain't even the majority of the country that's going crazy. It's the people that lost. Which at the end might just be the same ones that are winning with everyone else. Let's just say, for conversation's sake, that Donald Trump is right. Donald Trump's right about 90%. Let's say he's right about 80% of everything he says he can do and everything he says that he can accomplish with his 4 years that he's got left to be the president of the United States of America. Let's just assume 80% of it is all going to happen. Everybody, even you, Joy, are going to be way better off. But for us to have these conversations and then spin these narratives that it's all doomsday from here until the time Donald Trump leaves, when he's only been in office for 9 weeks, boy, that's going to be an arduous journey for a lot of you people that are naysayers. It's going to be a real shitty time of life. And so maybe rightfully so, I guess. I don't know. Kind of similar to the way all these folks on the left were thumbing their nose at the folks on the right when Joe Biden won. Well, look at the scoreboard. Guess you're just going to have to deal with it. Okay, well, I think we all just kind of dealt with it. I don't know that we saw college campuses in complete chaos. I don't know that we saw people getting assaulted and beat the fuck up all the time for just trying to talk about what's on their mind in a public space. I don't know that we had all kinds of conservative movements destroying property and burning down cities. And the list goes on and on and on and on. What is it that all these people are really so scared of? I mean, I really am failing to see this narrative and its validity and what it is you're all so scared of. Have none of you had to look for a job before? Has nobody had to pinch some pennies until you were in a place where you didn't have to while you're doing your job search? Maybe you got to chill out on your OnlyFans account Maybe you got to chill out on your online gaming. You can't buy the next Xbox that comes out or whatever the hell it is that people spend their money on. Maybe you got to slow down a little bit until you get a job. I mean, make sure that your head is covered, you got food in your belly, there's heat or air conditioning. I mean, we're coming up on summer. Get gas in your car and go look for a job. Take care of your kids if you got them. I think we've all had to do that, haven't we? Those of us that are above the age of 30. For a woman who spent 20 years in the National Guard, either she was working full time in the National Guard or she had a civilian job while she was also serving in the military. So she's no stranger to work. Then we get on the local news and talk about how being a probationary employee and unfortunately being laid off because the organization is cutting the budget, we're going to drive our car off a bridge? Come on. I'm really glad that you chose not to do that. Really happy about that. I'm really happy that you made the decision to drive into the VA hospital and go ask for help. Thank you for doing that. I want to see you get hurt. Glad that you got help, but man, it's not a good look for you. It's not a good look for the culture. It's not a good look for the community. It's not a good look for our state either. I don't know. And then flying your flag upside down. What does it mean to fly the flag upside down? It means we've lost. I was an infantry soldier. The way I was raised in the military, if we came across an outpost or a FOB or an OP or anything like that, where our friendlies were, and the flag is upside down, or you run into a platoon or another element on patrol, and they've turned their flags upside down on their sleeves, that means shit has hit the fan. It's gone to shit. And we've lost. Joy, we haven't lost. You haven't lost. I would encourage you to flip your flag around, tighten up your boots, get the help you need. There's resources to help you find work. There's resources to help you with your mental and physical, whatever it is. You know, I don't need to tell anybody. You know. I certainly don't need to tell you on here in front of however many people see this thing. But all's not lost. You never know. You may get a call to come back to work. The narrative is that a lot of these layoffs are temporary until things are figured out. You might just get a call in a week or a month or maybe 2 months. Hey, would you like to come back to work? And maybe you'll have a different job by then that pays more, that you like more, and you won't want to go back to work. Or maybe you'll have a sour taste in your mouth for the federal government and you'll tell them to fuck off. And that's okay too. That's fine. But stop listening to these news outlets that aim to thrust you in the neck and choke you with crap, with BS. That's not necessarily ever even really all that true. Stop it. We as veterans, we as a culture, as a community, we as people, as Americans, not just veterans, all over. We're better than that. When did we get to a place? When did we get to a time where we were so vulnerable to the people who were sitting on a TV, staring into a camera and lying to us? Where did we get to a place where we forgot to figure it out for ourselves? To find the truth, to sift through the bullshit and find the truth for ourselves. When did we lose that ability? And who took it away from us? And why? Why did we let that happen? As a culture, especially veterans. I don't know. It gets so frustrating because things just don't have to be this way. And the powers that be that want to control us and change the narrative and keep us in the dirt, they lay it on so thick. And then all these people just fall for it. They'll just fall for it. Do your own research. And then ask yourself, does this even make any sense? Does any of this make any sense at all? When you hear somebody in the media say, well, you know what? President Trump just hates veterans. So we're going to make sure that we can fire as many of them as we can. And we're going to trim the fat. And you know what? Elon Musk and Donald Trump are going to take all that money that the VA is going to save They're going to take it back because we're going to save it. They're not going to have a chance to spend it because we're cutting all these people. So we're going to save money on salaries and benefits and retirement and this and that and yada, yada, yada. And it's going to go right in their bank accounts, right in their pockets. They're going to steal it from the American taxpayer. What? It's preposterous. Preposterous, I tell you. Don't fall for it. I don't know. Maybe I'm the dummy. Maybe I'm the idiot. Maybe all of us that think there's a chance that we can be better. Maybe all of us that think that, man, the golden age of America, it sounds like a good idea. It sounds great. Let's see how this plays out. This might just work out in our favor. The richest man in the world, and another one of the richest men in the world, I don't know where Trump stands on that list, but two of the richest men in the world who are bringing in other rich people with billions and trillions of dollars to invest in this country to make their products and sell their products here to us and import them or export them to the rest of the world from here to the rest of the world. Seems like it might work out pretty good. Now, maybe we all could be naive and none of it'll happen. And maybe you guys will be right. But you guys all thought you were right the last time around. And look what happened. The old geriatric Joe Biden. You guys believed in him too. And even until the end, all these people thought he was the greatest president to ever grace the lands of America. He was the greatest ever. Couldn't believe that anybody thought different. The greatest president America's ever seen. Joe Biden. We need some good mental health practitioners in this country, I believe. That's my opinion. Turn your flag right side up and use those skills and that all those guts that the military gave you and fight. And maybe you feel like you don't have any fight left in you, but you know what? You do. Of course you do. All is not lost. The only thing you really lost out on is 10 months of work. And then however long you decide to sit around and sulk over being laid off. But if we get to work and get back to finding a job and get in one, I think you'll find that all will be fine. Don't let them win. Even if you continue to think that Donald Trump's against you, the United States government is against you, and they don't care about veterans and all that garbage. Okay, keep fighting. Don't let them win. Let's not run to the news who's going to put out some bullshit story. Let's fight. Ask your battle buddies for help. There's a lot of veterans around here, Joy. A lot of people that know a lot of stuff, that know a lot of other people, and a lot of people that are looking for good employees to do good work, that also, much like you articulated, like working with their people. That's why we started 3 Clicks Media. We're a bunch of veterans that like working with veterans. Don't like working for non-veterans or people that don't support veterans. So we started our own thing. We started a nonprofit. Guess what? We're all veterans. We can all work together. We can build something and invoke change in our community, in our culture. Has the government kicked us in the dicks? Yup. Has the system tried to keep us down? Sure. Just like they're doing to you, as you say. So if that's the case and you really believe that, then fight harder. Build something. Or find other vets that are building something and join them and help them build it. Let's not run to the news and flip our flags upside down and protest and do this and that and the other thing. Stupid. It's not a good look. Anyway, I don't want to get redundant. I feel like I've already repeated myself, and I'm sure I have, and I'm sure I'll hear in the comments how off base I am, and maybe I am. But you know what's cool about that? It's my channel. So anyway, folks, thanks for watching. If you made it all the way through, thank you for watching. Have a great rest of your evening or morning now. Take it easy, and we'll see you the next time. Goodbye.